Hi, my name is Susan Belak, and I'm doing a media effects paper on older Americans and new media. New media and older Americans have, for years, had a gap due to the constant changes that are occurring to keep current in what is happening in the world. As new media and social media have come into creative access since the early 1980s, advancements to enhance and change the way we utilize media has become more challenging. Throughout the last 25 years, new media has changed by leaps and bounds. The timeline for the World Wide Web spans from 1989 through today, 2015. Billions of people have been touched by the web in various ways around the world, being utilized for various functions. There are many disadvantages and advantages to new media usage with older Americans. The start of the computer in the early 1980s was utilized for work services only. Use of the DOS programs was for only form of computers. New media began back in 1989 with the World Wide Web and AOL instant messaging. The use was for online mail utilizing the phone line system, which bogged down the phone lines while in use. By the 1990s, most adult Americans had used some type of computer. That was about 42%. Websites and servers went live in the 1990s and were able to be utilized with cable lines, freeing up the phone lines. Surfing the web using a webcam and browsers were launched in 1991 through 1992. Media usage grew from 1994, which was 11 million users, to 18 million users in 1995. Bowles, Mellenhorst, and Rogers, 2006. Many of the baby boomer generation are not as experienced with using new media as the individuals born after 1964 to present. The most experienced are the people who were born between 1980 to present. They have always had new media in their lives and continue to utilize new media to a point where they are unable to live without it. The various types of new media are various cell phones, internet, iWatches, iPad, and video games. The biggest finding is how much money and time someone would like to invest in using new media. It can be a very expensive undertaking, and most elderly people have fixed incomes and don't want to take the time out of their busy lifestyles. Older adults don't like trying something new when new innovations are created, thus a decrease in what they use or purchase. Bowles, Mellenhorst, and Rogers, 2006. There are various types of positive and negative motivations for the use of new media in older people. In a recent study conducted by Anne-Sophia Mellenhorst, independent research professional, on behaviors of older adults being motivated by technological innovation and what the positive and negative motivators were. Overall, her findings were that older people were comfortable utilizing email and traditional methods of communication. Most did not use new media forms, and their friends either. Most utilized cell phones, email, mail, telephone, and visits with each other. Most of the older individuals found the cell phone and emailing to be negative in usage, and the old way of communicating, such as mail, telephone, and visits, is a positive way of using media. The biggest and most negative impact is the cost of new media. Also, the ability to adapt to these forms of media also hindered the test results, as older people do not like change. The old methods of communicating work. Another way of looking at how older individuals' way of communicating differs from how we use new media today is that we communicate on a daily basis with new media. It's a big part of our lives. Most of us nowadays communicate better using new media format than in person. Watching the older generation with their loved ones, friends, and acquaintances differs from how we, the younger generation, communicate with one another. Look at how relationships work with an older individual. The ability to sustain a serious relationship with a loved one or friend has dropped from how the relationships were established back in the 1900s and 1950s. The divorce rate amongst the newer generation has increased compared to marriages that took place in the 1920s through 1960s. The older Americans are excited to learn new processes with social media. They are able to be in contact with family, friends, and loved ones, and are able to do it with ease compared to having to write letters or remember phone numbers. The statistics are high for those older Americans ages 50 to 64. About 47% are internet users, Madden 2010. Many are using Facebook, MySpace, and LinkedIn in their main social network. There is online news gathering, email exchange that older Americans are utilizing to communicate with one another. Most of the younger Americans are falling out of those sites and using newer, more advanced sites. Social media ranges from the social network sites, online websites, news, and email. The most accessed media is social sites. Americans who fall in the age group 65 and older are the ones who really have no desire to utilize high-speed access with social media or media sites. There are both advantages and disadvantages for older Americans and new media. The advantage of new media usage with older Americans is they are likely to socialize more, get news information quicker, keep using their minds, and make them feel connected with another individual and the outside world. Another advantage to use new media is to continually use their minds. Learning new things and working with their hands is another advantage. Most of the shifts in electronic and technological devices are not quick movement, but conceptually can be difficult to learn. Some disadvantages would be a cultural gap, especially with basic communication. Older individuals have the ability to communicate, talk to one another, and learn from discussion, where younger generations of the high use of media have difficulty in basic conversation, person to person, unless they have an iPhone or computer access. A disadvantage could be self-worth. Sometimes if the older individual cannot operate a new form of media device, they could feel like a failure. With continued access and training, many older Americans of any age group could operate a new media device and be connected to the world. Dixon, Ellsma, Goodman, Mivel, Syme, 2003. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoyed my new media effects paper about older Americans and new media.